With my turf badge. Sweet.
Oh, I like that. I need to get my mum that badge too.
Turf badge. Angela brought me back, but I think she took one off, and she did say that one of them was they'd given her the wrong tea, so
Hashtag, if anybody's tweeting, it's hashtag Manchester Detrans. Manchester Detrans.
Put your phones on silent, please. If we're in a church, if you could be respectful of the building as well, pick up anything that you leave. Please don't sticker anywhere. Security are the lovely women in the high vis in the back. If you've got any questions or concerns, just speak to them. And there's a collection bucket for the Detransition Advocacy Network, which is what this event is launching. No, there's not? Okay. This is, sorry, what's the post-trans? Yeah. There's a collection bucket there. And you get like, posted, you get like, give someone you get stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I think that is everything. So I'm going to hand over to Charlie Evans.
We are going to be filming this. It's not being live streamed. It's not being live streamed, but we will be filming the Q&A section. If anybody wants to speak, but they don't want to speak on camera, we'll be going around with a clipboard. So if you have a question and you want to ask it, but you don't want to speak on camera, just write it down, and we'll try and make sure that it gets asked.
We're going to hand over to Charlie now, who's going to introduce a couple of people before we get to our first panel. So thank you very much.
The first thing I'd just quickly like to say is that I'd argue that detransition is not the only elephant in this room. If you take a look around, you're not going to just see the faces of people you call friends. You'll notice that we don't all agree here, and that we're not united in our views on gender identity or political alignments. And we've got into arguments, gift wars and 3-day Twitter spats. But today it doesn't matter. We want to welcome everyone, and we're united in support of the growing number of detransition people around the world. We all agree that we want the best for everyone living with gender dysphoria. So the focus of our event is to tell the stories of detransition and desisted women, discuss our experiences, our health needs, and what our lives look like now, and what we hope they look like in the future. Joining us are medical experts from around the country. Sorry, I'm crocodiles. We've not purposely platformed gender-critical detrans voices, but many of us feel harmed by gender identity, and this is a space for us to be honest and open about that harm. Please listen to us before you call us TERFs and try to dismiss us. Or even better, just don't call us TERFs and don't dismiss us. We're not motivated by hate, we're motivated by a strong sense of sisterhood, solidarity and justice for everyone like us. Justice for those whose transition has not worked to alleviate our symptoms. These are our stories, and today you're listening to women who will lead a revolution. So it's with great pleasure and a massive amount of pride that I introduce our first two speakers. For privacy reasons, at this point I don't want any sort of filming because we've been asked. So yeah, do you want to start? Am I sitting down with you? Yeah.
Can you just introduce ourselves?
Yeah, if everyone just did a quick, I'll start myself. I'm a psychotherapist, I'm based in Ireland, and I wrote and presented the film Trans Kids, the Channel 4 film that was broadcast a year ago. And anybody who's seen the film would know that when I was a kid myself, I had an experience that certainly would now, as far as I'm concerned, be termed or certainly described as gender dysphoria. And it was from my childhood, from about 3 to about 10, I'd say. It was a very long reducing of the gender dysphoria. It took some time, but it never came back. And I'm very happy in who I am. And I feel, in a lot of ways, you know, like life has been difficult, but I was very lucky not to have been born in an era
that would have, I believe, supported a lost kid who was very assertive, very strong on herself, very sure of her opinions, whether they were right or wrong. And I think, for me, it would have been, without a doubt, the wrong direction. And I really, really appreciate the two speakers who've already spoken. It was very brave, and it was actually incredibly moving. So thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me all right? Is that working? Yeah. So I'm David Bell, and I'm a consultant psychiatrist in the adult department of the Tavistock and Portland NHS Trust. And I'm also the ex-president, a former president of the British Psychoanalytic Society. I need to just say something rather formal before I say anything else, and I think a lot of you will understand why. That is, I am the author of a report which raised very serious concerns about the gender service in the Tavistock. However, and that's public knowledge. However, I will not be able, because I'm an employee of the Tavistock, so I need to make it very clear that anything I say this afternoon is my own views and do not represent necessarily the views of the Tavistock and Portland NHS Trust. And secondly, I will not be able to directly refer to either the GID service in the Trust or any other services within the Trust for obvious reasons. However, I do, over the last few years, I've built up, I think, quite a lot of knowledge about this area. And, well, I'm keen to engage with this whole movement because it seems to me that it is the elephant in the room. I only became fairly recently aware of the detransition movement and how difficult it is for services, speaking in the plural, services which deal with gender identity, to face up to the detransition movement, because they're a big threat to a kind of ideology that has acquired an almost totalitarian quality that cannot be questioned, cannot be challenged, cannot be exposed to ordinary fruitful doubt. And it is extraordinary the way in which, without any evidence base at all, as far as I know, this ideology has had the ears of politicians right up to the highest level, and largely of the media as well. It's sort of gone through unquestioned. But I think the pendulum is beginning to swing, and there's beginning to be a more thoughtful engagement about these issues. So I'm looking forward to thinking about it more with you all in the panel.
Hospitals in London, often working at the interplay between physical health and emotional mental health. And as a result of that career, I ended up in GIDS, Tavistock in 2013. And whilst I was there, witnessed quite a phenomenal change, really, in the young people that were coming through the doors. And I remember being very struck by the fact that we went from having manageable numbers of referrals to getting 100 in a week. You know, something was happening. I spent 5 years there, and whilst I was very happy to stand alongside young people who were trans-identified, I also felt that there were a group for whom this pathway wasn't going to work. But whilst I was there, I wasn't seeing those young people. So when I left in 2017, I thought, they're going to turn up. And so I spent the last couple of years since leaving working with sort of colleagues all over the world, thinking about what the detransitioners are going to need. And that's why I'm here, really, because I want to stand alongside those young people now too.
Hi, I'm Hannah Ryan. I am a trainee in clinical pharmacology and general medicine based in Liverpool, and I'm here basically because Charlie collared me and wanted a physician to be on this panel, and I couldn't say no. What I'm not, so I'm not a GP, I'm not a paediatrician, I'm not an endocrinologist, and I'm not a mental health practitioner. So I work in adult acute medicine and clinical research. So why am I interested in this issue? I'm interested because of the fraught field that exists with regards to evidence and the use of evidence on this subject. And I think that one important way forward around the medical interventions offered to young people with gender dysphoria is to focus on evidence. And also because detransitioned people offer us the opportunity to really kind of examine what we're getting right and what we're getting wrong. They are a group of people who might help us narrow down onto some really critical questions that can be answered with new research. So that's why I'm here, because I'm interested in how do we move on from where we are now, and how can evidence and evidence synthesis for policy help us in that direction.
We accept a degree of fluidity, particularly in terms of sexuality, and particularly in terms of gender fluidity. It is the opposite of fluidity. It tends towards a caricaturing of gender stereotypes. So you're either a girly girl or you're a boy boy, you know, and you can't be. I can't stand it. It drives me mad. I never know what it is. A sort of penetration of customership and the commodity form into medicine. That is, the consumer is always right. What they want, they must have. Whereas it's absolutely vital, isn't it, for a professional.
Actually, important to know, I do believe, obviously, transition is important to help people, but is that because we're letting people be gender non-conforming? Like, is that where the benefit is coming from? Like, yes, it makes me really mad. Take it quite personally.
Hello, yeah. I'm Thomasin, and I'm currently, I basically spent about 4 years identifying as trans, various between male and various non-binary identities. So I started when I was about 14, and I detransitioned in May this year. I used detransition, I never medically transitioned, but I got very close, and yeah, so that's why I'm here. Sorry.
I'm Nele, and I lived as transgender for 2 years, and I only recently changed my opinion about diversity because I realized that it was more based on my eating disorder and other issues behind. And yeah, now I'm detransitioning, and I am here, happy to be here. I'm Ellie. I come from Belgium. I'm 20. I identified as trans for about 4 years. I started testosterone when I was 16. I got a mastectomy shortly after, and about half a year ago I decided to detransition. I realized a lot of things about the reasons that I started transitioning in the first place, and yeah, that's what brought me here.
Hi, I'm Lydia. Some of you might know me as Satan herself on Twitter. Thank you. It was supposed to be a stupid joke, but I'm kind of stuck with it now.
It's really, really, really stuck to a point that it's like, oh, I've lost my mirror. Where was the mirror? Oh, Satan took it. Like, it's stuck, but Lydia.
I was trans-identified for 5 years, and I began transition when I was 18, by which I mean like social transition. And I began medical transition when I was 20. I'm 23 now, and I regret all of it, and I'm here today to talk about that reality.
Sookie. I identified as trans for 6 years. I started medical transition at 17 and stopped this year at 21. I regret of it.
So I guess it's one of those things of where do we start, isn't it? Is there anything you'd like to like end on? Too many things. I think we're going to have to do this again, aren't we? Yeah.
I guess what I want to say is I don't hate trans men and I don't hate women who hate their female bodies. But I hate that young women are getting castrated.
You know, there's a general. I'm really upset. You're the age you are, kids. I can't believe that you haven't had people around you to help you, to not be where you are now, to be feeling the way you feel. It's awful. You know, when you say we've got kids who are aged, I can't imagine if they have to go through any of this.
Well, I'm glad that I banned my daughter from going on social media at the age of 13 because I think 7 years ago, if we'd allowed her to go on social media the way she would have done, we would be sitting as parents in your situation at the moment.
We thought our teenage years were awful. You know, probably mid-20s. Our first child, I was 19, Joe was 17. I was nearly 30 before I was happy with myself.
Yeah,
you know, I can't believe you sat there at the ages you're at and that people have done this to you and allowed it to go on. And there's this general perception these days that everybody should be able to do whatever they want to make themselves happy. And this is why you've got surgeons saying, well, you know, we'll do this for you next, we'll give you a phalloplasty next, you should be happy because they think it's what you've asked for. And they think that they're doing what you want, but it's horrendous. It's horrendous, and when you say, where do we need the platform next, you need it everywhere. I've kept well away from that. I was meant to be the taxi driver tonight, and I'm glad I came in, to be honest.
We're probably going to close it there and head to the pub. We're not going to take questions. It's only because we were like prepared. Do you want a comment? Really brief because we've got to get out of any.
I just wanted to say I'm in agreement with the fact that these surgeons are the perpetrators and they should be put in prison for doing this.
Okay, so yeah, we're going to close now. I think the thing I'd like to end on, obviously these conversations are really bleak. Obviously this is shit. Sorry, I'm talking about but I'm so pleased that we do have a strong sisterhood community.
Thank you to Charlie for chairing both panels as well. Thank you, Charlie. And can I do a quick thank you you to our first panel as well. More applause. I've just got a really quick bit of housekeeping. So we do have a room booked at the pub, because that is the best part about these things. But it's a chance to meet and connect and network. It's the Turing Tap, which is about a 10 to 15 minute walk from here. I can give you the postcode.
I'm filming right now, so you can start speaking whenever you want. But
well, what do you want to ask me?
So what made you put on this event?
It was Charlie. Charlie approached us to do this event, and I just felt that it was really important that we give a voice to women whose voices are so often silenced, and we know that women's voices are silenced all the time anyway, but detransition women especially are silenced, and we wanted to start the conversation going, because I do make more noise with Katie, and one of our things is talking about difficult things and starting a conversation. Like, we don't have all the answers, and it's a difficult world we're navigating, but let's try and talk. And so that was what we wanted to do, give a platform and a voice to these detransitioned women and try and get a conversation going, because I think that's what we all need a bit of.
And why did you start Make More Noise, and when?
Because it was about a year ago. So me and Katie met at this an event that Posey Parker put on in Manchester, and I'd already been to a couple of Women's Place UK events, and I was already kind of in gender critical feminism for about a year before that. But we thought, let's start a blog that's kind of addressing all these issues, looking at all these issues from a gender critical perspective. We kind of wanted to make the UK feminist current, because a lot of the UK feminist sites are just absolute rubbish. Liberal feminism, mainstream feminism. And so, we started a blog. We wanted to put on events, and we got a podcast as well, just to talk about things that maybe other people aren't talking about, or giving a fresh perspective. We're two gobby northern lasses, so why not?
Cool. So how did you get in contact with the detransitions people?
That was Charlie who got in contact with us, actually, and so she put us in contact with everybody else. But I think she saw what we did, and I think Katie met her at a Get the Hell Out protest. And Get the Hell Out is a group of lesbians who feel that current LGBT activism is ignoring lesbians and sometimes harmful to lesbians, so they want to get the L out of LGBT activism and make their own spaces again.
Cool. What do you think about people from mainland Europe coming over to do these talks? Belgium, for instance.
I think that's really interesting. I think it shows that this is a worldwide phenomenon, that it's not just a UK specific thing. I think it shows that it's really important for them to talk and to connect with others, and that it was important enough to them that they did come over and talk about it. And maybe the conversation in the UK is slightly different. Maybe we're peaking a bit faster. I don't know.
Did you see anyone interesting in the crowd, or are you hoping that certain people?
I saw a couple of interesting people. There's quite a few clinicians who came, some who are critical of what's happening, feel that they can't speak out. Saw a couple of people who are more take an affirmation approach. Other clinicians who take more of an affirmation approach, and a couple of heads of charities who have been very much wanting to revise guidelines so that they're more trans-inclusive, but that actually ends up being a bit exclusive to women and girls. But I thought that was interesting that they came. You know, there's something that's piqued their interest as well, more so than these other sorts of talks that are going on.
Yeah, cool. So why are you here, and tell me about yourself.
So we are here as members of Get the Hell Out, and this issue of detransitioned women and transition women is an issue we've campaigned for over a year and a half now. It's part of the issue that the trans ideology is affecting lesbians. One side is the cotton seeding, obviously, and this side is the fact that lesbians get transition, which is a form of conversion therapy. We came here today from the other side of the country to support our detransitioned lesbian sisters, and we wanted to provide security for the event, to make sure that they felt safe, as it's a terrible journey what's happening to them, so that's why we're here. Thank you.
Would you like to okay, good. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And there was no trouble today?
There was no trouble today, no, it was absolutely, it was fine, yeah.
I was quite upset in the stories to hear that.
Yeah, it was really terrible, and I think a lot of lesbians of maybe my generation and over really relate to that, because a lot of us have been growing feeling like this, and at the time there was not a trans movement that was kind of affirming these feelings, and I think that's why it resonates so much with lesbians, older lesbians. It was really, really, really hard. Yeah, and of course the thing is, a lot of lesbians have been talking about this and raising this issue for years now, and it's never been picked up. Like, you know, we've not been really listened to, and we're really, really grateful that finally, you know, lesbians who detransition and women who detransition get heard and find their voice. And it's really proving, you know, what lesbians been saying for so long. It's really, really important.